Excellent. You're very welcome. We've got a couple of members of Australian and Irish heritage. So
there's plenty of that.
Yes.
Ray, we have David and Cyrielle who live in Fukuoka here as well tonight. So you'll get to hear from them, and I'm sure catch up afterwards as well.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so I think we're ready to kick off. So once again, everyone, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. And my name is Aisling Barry. I'm a director with IJCC, and I'll be the MC for tonight's event, Tales from the Regions, Fukuoka. And I'm just going to share tonight's agenda now. So we have two speakers. Just share that. Okay, so for tonight, we have two speakers. We have David Kavanagh, who's a marketing executive at Asan Motors, and we have Cyrielle Thomas, who's a representative director at Dokocha Japan. Both are based in Fukuoka. So we'll be hearing from them about the business, the industry, the Irish connections, and as well as that, the series that we're running, the Tales from the Region series, we started back in 2020, and this is our 8th event in the series. So we're very happy to be focusing on Fukuoka tonight. Just going to take that down for a second. After the talks, we'll have some Q&A, and we'll have some networking time at the end for through breakout rooms. So we're hoping that we can have some networking happening then. And if anyone here tonight is based in any region, is interested in being a speaker, introducing where they live, please let us know, reach out, and you can also access some of the recordings from past events from this series. So without further ado, I'd like to first introduce our first speaker for the night, David Kavanagh. And David, I'll hand over to you for your presentation, but I'll share your slides for you now.
Thank you very much, Aisling. And again, just before again, thank you very much to both yourself and all the members of on the board for all their support and give me the chance to talk a little bit about Fukuoka here today. So very much appreciate all your assistance over the last few weeks.
I just made it full screen. Can you see that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. In that case, I will get right into it. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Kavanagh. I'm currently living in Fukuoka City, originally from Dublin, Ireland. And in today's talk, I'd like to very briefly just take you through not only Fukuoka City, but a little bit more about the culture of the Fukuoka area, talk a little bit about Kyushu, and maybe we'll tie it together with a little bit of an introduction of my company, Asan Motors. Hopefully, through some anecdotes, maybe share with you a little bit about the kind of culture here in Fukuoka. So, sorry, Aisling, if you wouldn't mind going to, again, just a quick overview slide. Next slide, please.
Yeah, right now.
So again, just a very quick overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. First of all, I'll try to give you some context for Fukuoka Prefecture, as it is quite well. In Japan, it's one of the more remote locations, some could say, but I'll be saying why that isn't the case in a couple of moments. Then I'll, so by giving a sort of an overview of Kyushu, the Kyushu area, then I'll go a little bit deeper into Fukuoka City, kind of talk a bit about the city itself as well as the culture, touch on just a couple of regional highlights from Fukuoka Prefecture itself that I think really deserve to be showcased. Mention a couple of Irish connections here in Fukuoka, and finally, again, try to tie it all up with a brief introduction of my company, Asan Motors, what it is I'm really doing out here. So again, sorry, Aisling, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. Just again, give you some, first of all, some context. Easiest way to talk about Fukuoka is, again, and how easy it is to get to be quite honest, even though everyone thinks it's, again, at the very bottom end of Japan, it's really much closer than you think. Fukuoka is often called the gateway to Asia. As you can see in this map here, it's within 2 hours flying distance of some of the biggest cities in this region of the world. And most importantly, it's less than 2 hours, almost an hour, well, including boarding, about an hour, 30 minutes from Tokyo. So it is far more connected than you think. And again, just for some of you might not be aware, there is the Kyushu area on the right, with Fukuoka would be the topmost prefecture. In terms of size, just to give you an idea of how big Kyushu is, it's about half the size of Ireland in terms of total landmass. And to kind of put in context as to where it sits within the entire Japan, I use what some people call the rule of 10. Basically, Fukuoka has 10% of the Kyushu has 10% of the total population of Japan. It has 10% of the GDP, and excuse me. Again, it kind of puts it, well, when you think of it like that, very much puts it into context as to, well, what kind of area it is. So to talk, first of all, to give you just a quick overview of the economic region of Kyushu. Actually, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. Again, just some demographic info. Again, as I said earlier, it's again, rule of 10. Kyushu is the entire Kyushu area is about 10% of Japan's population, 10% of the landmass, and again, 10% of the GDP. Total population of 12.2 million puts it roughly double Ireland's population. And Fukuoka, which is what I'll be talking about in particular, has about, well, just under half, with a current population of 5.1 million, and you'd have about, as of the most recent census data, about 1.6 million people living in the actual Fukuoka city area. So again, I won't waste too much of your time on demographics. I'll just very quickly talk about the overall economic output of the Kyushu area. First of all, big three industries in Kyushu would be auto manufacturing, semiconductors, and solar power. Originally, going back to the 70s, 80s, Kyushu was very much a mining area. A lot of iron, chemicals. That transitioned into shipbuilding in the Nagasaki and the Kyushu area of Fukuoka. Again, things have progressed from there. At the moment, there's 4 main auto plants in the area. Particularly, you've got Toyota and Honda in Fukuoka and Kumamoto, respectively. And very roughly, the Kyushu area puts out about 1.2 million cars a year as of 2018, I believe. Another big area is semiconductors. Particularly right now, Kyushu is puts out about 20% of all the total semiconductors manufactured in Japan. And recently, very big developments in that sector. There has been a lot of investment in the Kumamoto area, which is just where that H mark is, the Honda plant. One of the biggest chip makers in Taiwan, TSMC, they've just announced they will be opening a very large plant. I believe they're putting in additional investment of 3.5 billion to get another manufacturing plant in the area. So very much a well-developed region. But moving very quickly on to, well, first of all, Fukuoka city itself. First of all, to give you just an overview of Fukuoka, it's very much the capital, as it were, of the region, both in terms of population and in terms of GDP. To talk a little bit about what kind of a city is, in many ways, and if there's any dubs in the audience, you might know what I mean when I say it's a city of, well, 2 sides. There's 2 large commercial areas similar to the, well, I guess you could say, north side, south side of Dublin. Tenjin and Hakata, they're the big 2 main commercial areas. The Hakata side, as opposed to a north side divide, it's an east-west divide. The east would be Hakata city, which is the more classical major city, and then the west would be Tenjin, which is undergoing a lot of development at the moment. I'll touch on that in a moment. But the original city of Hakata and Tenjin were merged together for Fukuoka city. And again, at the moment, the east side would be primarily manufacturing, a lot of warehouses, a lot of storage, a lot of distribution, logistics, while the west side would be more into, again, more residential, very much in particular the Momoji and Yakuin areas would see a lot of very higher wealth customers, a lot of higher property values, particularly around Yakuin. So just, sorry, Ashley, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. Just to talk a little bit about recent developments in Fukuoka city. In particular, what I'd like to showcase is that what's called the Tenjin Big Bang project. This is ongoing development project that's being spearheaded by the Fukuoka local government. Under this new initiative, what they've basically done is loosened the restrictions, and regulations on a floor to area ratio and the max size of buildings. Basically, that's allowed them to redevelop the area. Just recently, what actually pictured in this on the right there, it's just opened last year in September 2021, the Tenjin Business Center, which now hosts a a Google remote office, which is just coming online, I believe, in this summer. Very striking building architecturally and in the Fukuoka skyline. And just beside it, currently under development, is the Tenjin Business Center. This is being built over some of the, if anyone in the audience has been in Fukuoka in the last 5 years, you might remember the Tenjin Vivre building. That's been built over that, and they're expecting it's going to be almost 19 floors with offices on the 8th and 11th. And it's hoping to, again, host a number of international companies, and construction still ongoing. Overall, that's looking to open in the summer of 2024. So, and there's a number of other projects in the air, very much to redevelop the Tenjin Center into the commercial heart of the city. Overall, Fukuoka, and this leads into my next point, Fukuoka is very competitive, both in the city and with other cities in Japan. They were actually the first city in Japan to support what's called the startup visa, which is aimed primarily at foreign entrepreneurs and business leaders, which again offer, to sum up very simply, it's a sponsored visa by the city to encourage, again, young people who have a startup, who are willing to put some investment into the area, to get them fast-tracked for a residential visa. Very easy to apply for, short-term initially with a 6-month period, but that's followed again by a review, not only just a review of your living situation, but a review of your business, and depending on that, it's on how successful you've been able to develop your business here. That's open for extension. And well, there's not only is there a lot of take up internationally, a lot of international people moving to the city, it's also domestically a very attractive city. Again, as I mentioned here, as of the 2020 national census, Fukuoka, again, fastest growing city in Japan. And in particular, what I find very interesting is, according to that census data, very popular with younger generations. In particular, for 2021, I believe, there's almost been a 22% growth in the number of families and adults in the area as compared to last year. And again, that's just from regional census data. So moving on to my next slide to talk about, again, why Fukuoka is, again, an attractive city. Without going, again, into too much details, it's very well connected. One of the standout points, again, and the reason it's called the Gateway to Asia is the Central Airport, International Airport, which is located right in this heart of the city. It's 2 subway stops from the 2 main commercial areas, Hakata and Tenjin. 5 minutes from Hakata, 10 minutes from Tenjin. Very convenient. It's well developed. Overall, as I mentioned before, city of 1.5 million. And even though, again, as you can see from these pictures, it's a perfect example of Japan and high-rise culture, it's still very compact, very easy to get around. A lot of the, well, international community, it's a very common understanding that it's easy. You can go pretty much anywhere in an hour on a bicycle in Fukuoka. Very easy to see the city. It's very well rounded as well. Very colorful and lively expat community, which means not only there's a lot of community and social events, very open to foreigners. There's also a plethora of options for both regional and ethnic dining, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Very welcoming, and I think that's very much a strong point of Fukuoka and the Kyushu area in general. Is that, in my own experiences, I found that people here are very, very open. In a way, you could say they're very, very much up for anything. And if you'd like an example of that, I'd very much recommend, if you're in the area, do try one of Fukuoka's famous yatai stands. You'll see them in the top picture. If you go, that is the main Tenjin Boulevard. If you walk down that, again, being mindful of COVID, of course, you'll see a number of yatai noodle stands, everything from, well, ramen to yakitori. Just pull up a seat, and I guarantee you'll be talking to people you've never known, as if you're best friends in 10 minutes. Again, very much in showcasing the local culture. So a little more, just very quick, just about the city itself. It's a subtropical city. So again, summers, particularly right now, very hot, but autumns and spring, much more milder. Very, very livable. And again, as I mentioned earlier, very compact, so very, very easy to get around and see the sites, which I'll touch on in a moment. So sorry, talking, Aisling, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. Okay, without taking up too much time, touching on my last point about how very welcoming the city is, one of them, I think the greatest showcases of Fukuoka culture is what's called the Yamakasa Festival. This happens every year in July. Just finished actually 2 weeks ago. It was the first time it's been held. Obviously couldn't be held during COVID. So it was great to see everyone on the street again. What this is, basically it's a 2-week festival. Usually starts around the first half of July. You'll see on the left the floats are what makes it so distinctive. Each of the 7 neighborhoods in Hakata come together to produce floats, which are then dragged around the city. Again, the climax of which is a time trial race on the 15th. Absolutely great fun. If you're ever in the area, I strongly recommend you take the time to go see it. Although it does start at 5 a.m., so very much one for you early birds. The climax, the race itself involves dragging the shrines, which you can see in the bottom shrine. They're called in the bottom picture. Sorry, they're called kakiyama. They're quite heavy, weigh almost a ton, and they can't be lifted. They have to be dragged. So it is very much a group effort. But again, it's very competitive, and again, not in any way exclusive to locals. They welcome anyone and everyone to take part. And again, if you ever find yourself in the area, at the very least, I definitely recommend taking the time to, well, at the very least, watch and see what it's all about. So, and again, I think just to move on to my next slide, please, Ashley, if you don't mind. Again, I could talk for ages about all the different events that go on in Fukuoka City, but there's still a lot to see outside. Again, it's a very compact, very easy to access city. So you have some apps, again, if for people who are more interested in cycling, driving in particular, absolutely beautiful place to live. Just 2 locations within an hour's cycle from Fukuoka Center, 20-minute drive, which I'm particularly fond of. First is Shikanoshima, which is there on the left. Again, absolutely beautiful road and beach, a number of gorgeous resorts, in particular Katsuma Beach, which you can just see pictured there on the left, is absolutely stunning photograph location. That would be on the upper north side of Fukuoka, and another gorgeous location would be Itoshima, which is there on the right. Itoshima, it's out to the west of Fukuoka, again, within an hour cycle or 20-minute drive. Absolutely beautiful scenery. In particular, what you can see pictured on the right there, Futamigaura, a beautiful bayside area. The 2 rocks, natural formations, perfectly capture the sun as it comes down in the middle. And again, you couldn't ask for better scenery, again, if you're ever in the area for a cycle. So again, moving very quickly on to just to talk a little bit more about Irish connections. The reason there's just two small connections I'd just like to touch on. First one, again, is very well, technically not within Fukuoka, but again, it's only an hour's drive. Mitsue Brook, which is a import store. They also ship nationwide, specializing in Irish goods, in particular Irish beers on the left, and a number of snacks, which some of you may be familiar with. They've been operating for 2 years now, and absolutely lovely people, and well, fantastic way to get my daily fix of potato and, well, Mary's tea. And another, sorry, Ashley, you wouldn't mind going, changing the slide. Can't really talk about Irish culture and region without touching upon pubs. I would absolutely recommend, there's a number of pubs in Ireland, in Fukuoka. My number 1 recommendation would be without that, the Hakata Harp. Absolutely gorgeous pub. What I'm always impressed with is you can see it on the right there, the interior furnishings. This was founded, the pub itself was founded in 2000 by a local, and he really went the extra mile, as you can see, especially on the top right-hand side. He used a number of actual furnishings from a pub that I believe closed down in Kilkenny and had them shipped at great expense to the pub. So I feel you can't get more authentic than that. Definitely worth your time if you're in the area. So moving on, I'd just like to talk a little bit about, well, what I've been doing here in Fukuoka the last 8 years. You can see here, I currently work for a company called Asan Motors, which is a luxury car dealer. We serve for the Kyushu region. We currently host 2 brands, McLaren and Aston Martin. If you're a petrol head, you've probably heard of both of them. If not, McLaren would come from F1, while Aston Martin, probably most famous for his tie-ins with a certain fictional spy, Mr. Bond. We currently located in the Hakata and the east side of Fukuoka. We have a 2-level showroom. You can see a couple of pictures of it there. And just to give you a brief idea of what we've been doing, sorry, Ashley, if you wouldn't mind going to my next slide. You just see a number of milestones here. Again, we started in 2014. With an official opening in 2016. I joined the company in 2017. Since then, we've been trying to expand our coverage all around Kyushu. We've received a number of awards from both brands for our performance and sales figures. And in 2021, the most exciting is we were selected as the official Japanese partner for an American company called Singer Vehicle Design. Again, if you're a petrol head, probably doesn't need much introduction, but for those of you be less familiar, Singer Vehicle Design would be a American company. They would take famous classic Porsches from their owners, rebuild them at considerable expense, and then ship them back to Japan. Usually, price figure, well, most of those cars will come back. They'd be, when you would send them out, they'd be valued sub $100,000, maybe in euro, about 80 to 70,000 euro. But when they come back, they're easily worth over $1 million. So I'd be delighted to talk about more about Singer if you're interested at any time. But again, I won't dwell too much on that today. So again, as a car dealer, we, and especially as a luxury car dealer, we can't just, well, it's not about really selling the cars, it's about selling the lifestyle. And just to give you a brief idea of what that means, I've got a couple of images on the next page, Ashley, if you wouldn't mind. Just a very quick, as they call, event showcase. So we do a number of events to, as I said, sell the lifestyle. On the top there, that would be an example of what we call owners touring, where we take a number of our owners to any one of several luxury destinations in Kyushu with their cars, give them exclusive VIP treatment. We'd also, in the bottom left there, we do car displays, test drive events, and all the high-end locations in Fukuoka. That would be Tenjin on the bottom left there. Top right, we would also do test drive events. That's myself taking care of a customer last year at the Spa-Nauri circuit in Kumamoto. And finally, we would also do, again, car unveils and car launches. So the bottom right there, you can see is probably our biggest event to date, which was a model launch in which we decided to do out in Nagasaki. So very busy. And just to, I guess I could say, try to wrap it all up. So Aisling, would you mind going to the next slide? Rather than kind of talk about how great these cars are and how fun it is to work with them, much easier just to show you a video of them in progress. So I won't take up too much of your time, only a brief minute. If Aisling, you'd be so kind to play the video.
Can you see it, David?
I'm afraid not, Aisling.
Oh, goodness, sorry. I'm
Sorry,
watching
Aisling.
it myself. Sorry. Okay, let me just edit my sharing. Okay, sorry now. Screen. And there's no audio, just in case.
No, I'll talk over. That's okay.
Okay, is this okay now?
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. So again, what you're looking at here, I'm afraid a bit difficult to get these things to play normally, but this will be one of our biggest events. This was just 2 months ago, a test drive, what we call a track day for owners on the Autopolo circuit in Oita in Kyushu. And why I've decided to show you this as the kind of culmination of the video is that, again, if you see in this current, what we're looking at right now is the cars on track being filmed from the passenger seat of one of the owner's cars. And although you can't see it, the person filming all these cars as they drive by and is myself, leaning out the passenger window with a camera on a gimbal, with one of our customers driving me around the track. And well, obviously it was absolutely terrifying. It's one thing to hold a $10,000 camera in your hand, it's another entirely to have it sticking out the window of a multi-million-dollar car. But the story of how this came to be is what I feel a really great example of the kind of character you meet in people, the character of people who live here in Kyushu. Again, as a luxury dealer, thank you, Aisling, we would go above and beyond in terms of customer service. We treat our customers with the greatest amount of respect and go bend over backwards for them. And as I'm sure you're all aware, in Japan, just standard levels of customer service are already incredibly high. When you're dealing with people who are paying a huge amount of money for the car, you have to go way beyond. Everything has to be absolutely perfect. Again, you'd expect people who are driving these cars to be very, very uptight. Well, you know, snooty would be the kind of impression most people have, but our customers could, again, all Kyushu natives, incredibly welcoming. When they saw us filming on the day, again, one of our biggest customers approached me with the camera and said, listen, I'm driving around the track. Again, it's just me in the car. If you want, hop in the passenger seat, sure, and let's try to get a better angle. Completely spontaneous, and again, complete spur of the moment, but well, we got a great result out of it. And again, I really feel as it shows just how, again, welcoming everyone who's here, welcoming the people of Kyushu, very much. I've been living here 8 years now, and again, I've never really felt much of an outsider. Whenever I've tried to take part in activities, to interact with customers, or just live my life here, never for a moment felt shut out in any way. So overall, couldn't recommend Fukuoka enough. Sorry, Aisling, I'm aware I've probably gone over time a bit, so I will stop it there before I keep on going and hand over to Cyrielle, if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much, David. Yeah, we can hand over to Cyrielle if you're ready, Cyrielle.
Yes, can you hear me well?
We can.
Good evening, everyone, or should I say bonjour, as I am speaking from France, where I succeeded to come back after 2.5 years of absence. But I am happy to be here today and to be able to present to you my entrepreneurial journey and Fukuoka, so thank you for having me. I will share my screen. Can you see my screen okay? And should be on a full screen view normally.
Full screen.
Good. So I'm here today to speak about Dokocha Japan KK. So let's start the presentation. So Dokocha Japan KK is the entity, the company I established in Fukuoka in December 2020. It gathered two brands of us, Dokocha and Digitomenu. On my side, I am a French entrepreneur, and I used to work for American companies in France to implement them, and always in digital transformation, digitization with local businesses. I discovered Japan for the first time in 2017, and I fell in love with the country. And not only, I fell in love and discovered passion about Japanese tea. Everything started from Japanese tea. So I came back also in 2018, and this is where I decided that maybe there's something for me in Japan and I should find a way to stay longer and to start a business there. David already explained about all the charms of Fukuoka, and it's also most of the reasons why I chose this city, and also because they propose a startup visa, which would help me to start the company and explore the market. So I succeeded to get the startup visa in March 2020. It is the time I moved to Fukuoka also. I chose Fukuoka. First, I wanted to go to Tokyo. I wanted to try the startup visa in Tokyo, and I was lucky enough to be connected to Fukuoka city representatives. So I visited Fukuoka. They welcomed me super well, and I also saw that the whole prefecture of Fukuoka and also Kyushu, all prefectures of Kyushu were dedicated to Japanese tea also. So it was making sense at that time to come there for my Japanese tea project. So I came in Fukuoka in 2020. It is also a twin cities with Bordeaux, where I used to live for 10 years before arriving here. And as you can see also in the timeline, March 2020 was when everything began with the coronavirus situation. And it's also part of my story and Digitomenu story. But speaking of Dokocha Japan's missions, it's really the digitization of local businesses in Japan through the use of digital platforms to promote their stories, activities, and their also product service menus. As I said, I started with Dokocha, which I will quickly introduce to you. I came with a vision to develop tea tourism because I saw a wealth of terroir, passionate producers in different producing regions of Japan, also discover passionate business owners, and I saw many beautiful stories to share, like we used to see with wine tourism in France. So I launched Dokocha TV and Dokocha website globally in November 2019. And we had the opportunity to work with Fukuoka Prefecture and Yamecha to produce promotional video to show this Yamecha area, which is a very famous area for Japanese tea. And we told the story of different producers and a specific aspect of it. So if you are curious about it, I invite you to visit dokocha.com or to scan the QR code to discover the series of videos. But I wanted to speak more about Digitomenu. So I will take more time to explain to you these now main priorities of our work. When I came in Fukuoka, it was in March 2020 with the Dokocha project, and it was dedicated to inbound tourism. It was really to make them discover Japanese tea. And I realized that in Japan, when you're a tourist or just arriving, you just don't master the language of Japanese language, actually. So it's also hard to understand how to look for businesses, to find the address. And when you find the address finally and you arrive at the place, you don't understand the menu because most of the time it's all in Japanese. And I was thinking that if I have to work on Japanese tea discoveries, and if tourists, expats are succeeding to find an address, they need to understand the menu. So at that time, already in March 2020, I was developing the first digital menu, mobile menu for my tea business partners. Then coronavirus, it's everywhere in the world. The frontiers closed in Japan, and I decided that, okay, should I continue with Dokocha or pivot with something else? And my something else was Digitomenu. I wanted to propose that digital menu solutions to every local businesses. So Digitomenu mission is to help restaurants, cafes, bars, and food industry actors in general to create their mobile menu, digital menus, in order to propose a safer and more sustainable solutions to their customers. We have three important words at Digitomenu: safety, accessibility, and sustainability. You can scan all the QR code and it will lead you to our QR code menu demo, so you can see how it looks on your phone directly. Why safety? We arrived in Kyushu. So we launched in Kyushu. Kyushu is a different island. It is very welcoming. It is a food island, Fukuoka city even more, but it's still, Digitomenu was different because we were targeting local businesses, local restaurant business owners. So we needed to approach and reassure them that saying, that's okay, we are coming with something digital, but we won't send anything in your process. We won't send anything with your stuff. So we are saying that we are a contactless menu, but we are not a contactless experience. We just want all customers to be able to go back to your place because everything, delivery, takeout was booming at that time, but local businesses were struggling to get customers back at their places. So we say, welcome them again the safest way while keeping the same habits. We have also a focus on accessibility because we are proposing products and service visibility. So we are more than a menu because most of these local businesses, they don't necessarily have a website or a SNS presence. And we are speaking the same language. It is a menu. So we are proposing an online visibility, online presence to them. We are also proposing seven language availability. So we have Japanese, English, French, Spanish, German, Chinese. And since yesterday, we launched Korean, which is a very important language in Fukuoka, very long awaiting features. both Chinese and Korean are the most visited tourists in Fukuoka. And we are also proposing 11 food diversity, like vegan, kosher, gluten-free, and we are making an education around it because it's also a way to attract more customers if you know how to speak to them, like we are taking care of your special diet. And not only for international people, but also for Japanese persons. This is also a need right now with the local businesses in Fukuoka. It is how to attract new customers and make them repetitive. And last but not least, sustainability. So it is also an education we are having with both customers and local businesses. We are working to reduce the consumption of paper and plastic in Japan. We want people really to move from every classic paper and plastic menus. And I think it's the first time that I saw so many types of different papers on table. It's in Japan. Normally in other countries, you can see just one menu at lunchtime, one menu at dinner time. But in Japan, I saw a bunch of plastic and paper menu waiting for me. So I thought it would be nice for them just to switch to digital. This is also why I could feel on the field that something was missing for them in terms of sustainability. That was not the main priority right now because of that safety thing, that accessibility thing, and also visibility. So we try to find a solution to really quantify that sustainability missions. And this is also why we decided recently to partner with One Tree Planted in order to plant trees wherever the planet needs it the most. And as I said, to make sustainability a visible part of our missions and to quantify the positive impact of our mobile menus for the planet. So for every QR code menu created, we plant one tree. It's One Tree Planted. We say also that it's not just a menu, it's a PR opportunity. So we got several opportunities here to have TV show locally with a GCOM TV channel. So they came to one of our partner, Kavanagh, it's a yakitoriya, and they decided to do a special PR shot just because they were switching to digital and they wanted to highlight this. Recently, last week, we got a special section on Love FM, also a local radio, to highlight what we are doing as Digitomenu. We have also an SNS platform pushing on Instagram to share about Digitomenu, but not only, also to show our partners, the food, also to make everything around the activity of Digitomenu. And being also a French entrepreneur, foreign entrepreneur, it brings opportunity to have highlights from international institutions here in Japan, like I had with Business France, and also today with the Chamber of Commerce of Ireland in Japan. And we are also supporting local. So we are not just doing this activity, selling the menu. We also want to show that we are a local actor and that we are supporting local businesses in their desire, not only to go digital, but also to answer their needs and current challenges in their activities. Some photos of what is happening for us in Fukuoka. So you can see some happy partners in the middle. It's also something that Fukuoka City representatives, Fukuoka City itself permits to achieve, is to have a partnership with Fukuoka Zoo, so a local institution, and to have all Digitomenu implemented in the cafe. So this is also why I like being in Fukuoka. It's that it's really a human-sized city and it's easier to get the right connections and to ease this kind of partnership. And you can see also some display kit options that we are proposing. When I say display kit, it's proposing solution for the local business to showcase their QR code to their customers. And this was also part of the challenge, like having all window stickers on all window of the businesses, and also to be able to adapt to the very specific local market. When we went on the field, as you can see on the second photo, second line, the first one, you can see a mini QR pop, and it's part of something we saw, and even more in Japan. They say, I don't want to change anything. I don't want to go fully digital. I don't want to change the process. And I say, that's okay, don't change it, and we will adapt. So it was a way to adapt, saying you can keep your plastic, your own plastic and paper menu, but you need to propose an alternative to your customer. For those who want to scan the menu, don't touch it, you don't know in advance. Because even in Japan, people won't say, I don't want to touch your menu or show me something else. So just bring an alternative, and we are here also to help. And more recently, the last photo at the bottom corner on the right, it's the new marketing campaign we just launched, which is called the Love Cards, part of the Support Local. And it was a way for us to bring to have a bridge between what we were doing online with Support Local, tag your favorite businesses, but also offline by showing support from current customers going at the shop. Also a very important point, and also my link with the Irish Chamber of Commerce. So as a startup, it's also very important to be able to find the right support. And I found this when I was lucky enough to be contacted almost 2 years ago, I think, by Pat Ryan, which you very well know, director of Kyoto Vista Global and vice president of this Chamber of Commerce. So Pat Ryan is our lead investor. We did 2 fundraising, one last year and one this year. Not only financial investment, but also continuous support and advices to really help our early stage startup to officially start and grow. And what I really like is this relationship of trust and transparency with common values and vision, which is make local businesses in Japan more digital, accessible, and sustainable. This permit our company to grow and to recruit. This is a team you can see on your screen. And I am happy to have now people working in different departments like tech department, marketing, sales. And also it permits us to really achieve some milestones that I wanted to share with you today. And some are really part of the Fukuoka proposal, like the first one. I think you can see my mouse on the screen. So I will show you directly the different images. So this one is certificate of excellence we receive as a new business and the new products proposed by Fukuoka City. It opened us many doors, like being selected by Jigood Tech, which is a matching platform that connects startups, innovative startups, and leading companies in Japan, big companies in Japan. It also permitted us to be selected by Yokohama Tech Show to have an online exhibition. We also had an exhibition at Fukuoka City Hall to show Digitomenu services. Here, as I said, we developed a partnership with Fukuoka Zoo and the cafe inside and a gift shop also, not only food and drink products. Actually, we can apply mobile menu, digital menu for any type of local businesses, flower shops, bakeries, wine shops, sake shops. So we are approaching this type of businesses this year. And also Fukuoka City, as part of the startup also program, wanted to do a PR movie, and they invited us to be a part of it. So you can see it also on their website. Also something important, you start in Fukuoka with a startup visa, but at some point, up to 1 year, you need to switch to a business manager visa, which I succeeded also to have last year, and which needs to be renewed. But it's a good program, this startup visa, to kick off the company. And most recently also Fukuoka Prefecture, not only Fukuoka City, certified us as an inbound partner for multilingual solutions for local businesses. Also very important is sales, clients, development of business relationship. So most recently, we got 2 clients signing up for the yearly options, and seeing them very happy to start using what we call a mobile menu, but it's also a PR menu for them. And another achievement is that customers are using the menu. It was one of the milestones from last month, is that we saw that there was more than 2,500 scans on all the menu we have implemented in Fukuoka. So it's really like a win-win situation for everyone here, and number is still increasing. And yes, I think that's it. Thank you for listening, and I would be happy to answer all your questions during this Q&A. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Cyrielle, and thank you, David. So it seems there are many reasons why Fukuoka is an attractive city for entrepreneurs, and the location is not quite as remote as we would have expected, I think, especially with the airport being so central to the city. It's also, of course, great to hear about the connections with Ireland, the supplier of Irish goods, Mitsue Brook, and the Irish pub industry, as introduced by David. And David, I was not familiar with the term petrol head, so thanks for teaching us that also. Your passion definitely is conveyed in your presentation tonight. Of course, Cyrielle, you're joining us from France today, so thank you for making the time to wake up a bit earlier and joining us, talking to us about your experiences with setting up a company in Fukuoka. Very interesting to hear that Fukuoka is the first city in Japan to support a startup visa for foreign entrepreneurs, and that you were able to take advantage of that. So thank you both very, very much for the interesting presentations. So yeah, we would like to go on to some Q&A and open the floor to any questions. So if anyone here tonight has a question, feel free to unmute yourself, maybe let us know your name, and you can ask your question or write it in the chat if you would prefer.
Just a question for David. This is Eamon. What brought you to Fukuoka in the first place? Were you in Japan previously and you moved down there, or what happened at the beginning?
Sorry, let me just, am I unmuted there? I think, okay, great. Hi, Eamon. It's a question I get asked a lot. I find my answer seems to change through the years. First and foremost, was a pressing lack of a job, not to put too fine a point on it. But I first came out to Fukuoka in 2014. I was offered a position in a local community college to, I guess you could say, help facilitate exchanges for their students and some universities in Geneva, of all places. It seemed like an interesting job. It definitely seemed like a way to pay the bills. So I came out, and I found myself, first of all and foremost, staying because of, again, as I hopefully conveyed, Fukuoka is an incredibly easy place to live, whether out in the countryside as I was in my initial years, or if you're living in the central city like I am now. It was definitely a interest in Japan, which had me looking at it in the first place. I think, like many members of younger members of the Chamber of Commerce, I graduated from DCU, originally doing my degree in business and Japanese. And more than anything, I wanted to, again, find a way to utilize that right out of the gate, rather than letting those languages skills linger and wither, as it were. Best way to do that is out here in the country. So an opportunity, and went for it. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, David.
David, quick question for you. Do you get to drive these cars around in your spare time?
I was hoping someone. I was hoping someone asked that. One of the perks of the job is if you don't know the product, it's very hard to sell it. It's very hard to tell people what's so great about it. So yes, I would admit to being a bit of a petrol head myself, and have driven some absolutely incredible cars. I think the highlight of all the two highlights I would have, just to reminisce a little bit, for a promotional activity, I ended up driving a McLaren GT around the Tension Central area for an entire day to kind of, I guess, get the car out in the open, get people looking at it, especially if there's some, Irish guy behind the wheel that catches even more looks, especially in a convertible. So that created a bit of buzz. That was an incredible experience. And the other one was another very treasured memory. We did I think you saw a picture of it. We often do on private tracks. We do test drive events for customers. We're doing we ended up doing a test drive event for some of our Aston Martin customers. That means we have to bring the demonstrator car out from the showroom out to Oida. Usually the manager drives that, and he's the manager of Aston Martin, very interesting man, very laid back at times. On the way back, it's about a 3-hour drive from Oita to, which is where the track was to Fukuoka. He's been working all day trying to, I guess you know, as a car salesman, getting to know his customers, working with them, discussing their problems. As the event organizer on the kind of implementation side, I was one of the last people on site. So just as we're packing up to leave, he has to drive the car back. He turns to me and says, "You have your license, right? Can you drive that back? I want to take a nap." So just quite literally threw me the keys over the hood and said, "Just get it back. I don't want to wake up in a car crash. Otherwise, I'm asleep. You know, you have my blessing." So driving a Aston Martin Vantage back from Oita through the highways of Central Kyushu was an absolute highlight. Sorry, I go on about this if you never give me a chance to talk about cars, but hope I gave you a little insight.
No, it's obviously you're passionate about cars, and that's obviously coming to your role in sales, essentially, in Fukuoka. And that kind of leads me to a second question for both you and Cyrielle.
Oh, sure.
Just for both of you, actually. I know, Cyrielle, you've worked with some of the large US digital or tech firms as well in France, and you're now in a small startup in Fukuoka, but essentially you're in sales as well. Is there anything either of you can kind of comment on the two things? One's the sales process in Japan compared to other countries, and secondly, maybe a bit more for you, Cyrielle, the kind of digital adaptation in Japan compared to what you saw in the cities in France you worked in Bordeaux, etc.
Should I start with it's very different, the Western market and the Japan market. I knew that before coming here, but what I noticed is that in France, for example, even for American companies like Yelp, when I started in Bordeaux, it was really not known. Like, it was TripAdvisor everywhere in Europe and not Yelp. But everyone wanted to try because there was free trial. It was free to be on Yelp. In Japan, there are less early adopter. So even for something free or free trial, we would have to go through a process of classic traditional meetings to convince them just to click on sign up. So this was the main difference. And also, I always had these visions when I was living in France that Japan was very digital, very into high technology, very digital. And then when I arrived and we started to visit businesses, we noticed that they were super, I won't say scared, I won't find the right English term for that, but resistant to change, wanted to keep the traditional ways because it was working this way. Being in the COVID era changed many things because they needed to adapt quickly. The customers were not coming, like the current customers, they stopped coming and they were a little bit lost, saying, "Oh, but my current customers, they are not coming, but how should I attract new customers? Or how can I attract also foreign people?" Then they started to find solutions like Uber Eats or takeout, but still, even there's a need to be convinced and not this quick to sign up, and also being not early adopter. I think it's right terms, it's not early adopter and very, it takes longer to convince a Japanese business owner than a French business owner. Like, this is the main difference for me. I would visit some business in France and say, "Oh, by the way, do you want to try Yelp today?" And they say yes, and they will do it right away in front of me, just adding the business. And if they are not happy, they just close the account, and that's okay. But it's not happening like that in Japan. We really have to adapt and to find ways to reassure them and to show also that we are a real company. Being a startup in Japan is not the same as being a startup in Western countries, because they used to work with a big and long established company, and they're like, "Who are you? You don't have any history. You don't have any past things you can tell us to reassure us." So this is also why we wanted to get certificates. We also, everything we learn on the field, that we don't trust you're a real company because you don't have a company profile on your website. So right away, we added a company profile on the website stating the legal things that needs to appear. We also added a history from the start and sharing all the big milestones. They can click on affiliates everywhere. Everything was, how can we increase the trust factors for our company. And more recently, something that I would never guess it would happen in France and happen to us. We distributed some flyers. If I have some time to tell the story, because I think it's a big learnings for Japan market. We started a flyer campaign. We put all information in it. We put the www.digitomenu.com. We also put QR codes to scan and to access website, demo menu, no result. Like no request, nothing. So I asked my sales manager to call the businesses he visited and ask, what happened? Did you receive the flyers? Did something happen? Do you have any questions? And something they told us was, I couldn't find your company. So we were really surprised and say, why? Everything is there. There's website, there's a QR code. No, I couldn't find you on Google. And then we decided to ask more questions and to understand what should we do, like to be found on Google, of course, keyword, but we all know that it's a difficult work to be to have this high level of referencement on Google, and it costs a lot of money. And in fact, it was very simple. And now that I know that, I notice it everywhere in Japan. They don't use www.digitomenu.com. Everywhere on communications, even PayPay, Line are doing it. On YouTube advertisements, they are putting a design of a search bar. And the company are telling the Japanese persons, this is a keyword you should find on Google. So you will see maybe from today everywhere that search bar and the keywords that we want people, we teach people how to find us. And we created a Google business page. And since then, we got in maybe 1 week since it's open, like 700 views on the Google business page. So it is really something in Japan that I would never guess in if we were not doing the flyer campaign, and would never happen in France, because you click on the link, you open, you chat, that's okay.
Thanks, Cyrielle. That's great. And David, you in sales, what's you're obviously selling to very high-end customers, and then we'll probably finish the Q&A then if we're running out of time, Aisling, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I talk a little bit much.
No, it's you didn't. Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead, David.
Sure. So again, in my case, a bit of a caveat, slightly different background. I would be B2C and not quite B2B, like Cyrielle said. So some things would be a little bit different, but again, definitely I would echo what Cyrielle said with regards to trust. Most of our customers, all of our customers, are either high net worth HNPs or UHNPs, high net value people, or ultra high net value people. Trust is important. Presence is important. If you looked at the timeline that I posted about our company, you may have seen that we started in 2014, opened the show in 2016. Those first 2 years, incredibly rough, because we were, again, did not have a location. We were, again, a properly registered company, but with no physical address to really say, you know, this is us, we are committed to the area. Because in a way, it's a sign of commitment, having an actual storefront, or even if it's just something that shows your presence here in Japan. As long as you have that, people are far more willing to really do business with you. But so again, trust is essential. And I guess the other, getting a little more specific into my own experiences, what's absolutely essential for the sales process when you're dealing with very ultra net worth people is not just trust, but again, you really have to go over and above what their expectations for good customer service is. As anyone living in Japan knows, just the general level of service is really quite high. And again, when you're trying to convince someone to buy something that costs in the 6-7 figures, any mistake at all is fatal. Anything, again, we had a similar experience with Cyrielle with leaflets, in particular, some not paper, but more digital. A customer told us, happy to buy a car, but I want to make something very clear. I don't want any communication from your factory. I don't want any emails. I don't want any letters. I sold through you. I'm buying the car through you. You're the dealer. You're here in Japan. I don't want anything. We've had to explain so many times to the central office in the UK. We're on the verge of losing. This guy has probably spent close to 50 million with you in terms of his garage. It's insane garage, but you're going to genuinely lose him because, again, he has one request: don't send emails. You know, I want to do it all through this location in Japan that this dealership that I know and trust. I don't care about any promotions or updates about manufacturing new models. I want it all through this dealership. Again, I think someone must have unchecked the box. An email went out to him. Must have been almost a month of just meetings with him, calming him down, trying to get it, explain to him, we're sorry that this happened. We, again, we'll make sure that this never bothers you again. So again, very much high standards. And I know I'm running out of time, but I want to just again touch back on the kind of area that Kyushu is in terms of just the character of people here. From that story, you probably have an image that a lot of our customers are again very sensitive. That in some cases that's fair to say, but I would also like, as a counterpoint, to raise the example of our top McLaren salesman, local native, Fukuoka, born and raised. That man has the soul of a Cork man. He's our best salesman, but I swear to God, I guarantee, whenever his customers come in, most of us, all of us would have numerous lessons on the exact correct, right down to the degree of how far we're supposed to bow based on where the customer is. New customer, new prospect, existing customer, how many cars he's bought. This guy would, again, oftentimes with no suit at all, just McLaren track jersey. In local, I guess you say, Fukuoka Ben would say, sure, how you doing there, Mr. Tucker? Great to see you. God, you're doing it. You absolutely ruined your run on the track last week. I don't know what you're doing. You need a better car. And they love that. And he, I think he really, in my opinion, really embodies that kind of spirit of Fukuoka without sounding overly dramatic. They're just very open and welcoming. He's honest. More than anything, he's honest. He's very pure with his feelings towards the cars, how much he loves working for McLaren, how much he enjoys selling, and in many cases driving the cars that he's representing. And again, people here in Kyushu, they really, really pick up on that. Again, there's always Japan, big Japan. You've always got to pay a lot of respect and attention to the details, but at the same time, again,
there has
very,
to be
very open.
So well done. Thanks very much.
Yeah, sorry, I went on a bit too long there.
No, as I said, the passion of it, and I actually know. I know you mentioned Cork there, and I'm from Cork, as you know, and Ashling isn't a few of us. But there's a Michelin star restaurant in Cork run by a guy called Miyazaki-san, and he's from Fukuoka. And again, one of the reasons he located there was that type of direct type of approach as well. So I think it's the message you're kind of giving is the people of Fukuoka have their own way of doing things, and informal, but doesn't mean that they're not providing an extremely professional service. So very interesting. Okay, I thanks very much for answering the questions. I'll let Ashling get back to try and get things on track and time-wise. So.
Thank you both. So yeah, we'll end the Q&A there, but we will have breakout rooms soon. And if anyone has questions after or wants to get in touch with either David or Cyrielle, just let us know and we can do introductions as well. So thanks again to our speakers, David, Kavanagh and Cyrielle Thomas tonight. Before we start our breakout rooms, I would like to hand over to Pat Ryan, Vice President of the IJCC, just for a few closing remarks.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Just one thing, I'm not sure how good my connection is tonight. It's been breaking up a bit, so apologies if it's a bit sketchy. So firstly, just like to say thank you to David and Cyrielle for participating tonight. I know a lot of preparation and work goes into these sessions in terms of, you know, the preparation of the presentations, the time it takes, but also representing, I suppose, your city or your adopted cities as well. So appreciate that. I'll say the kind of closing remarks, but the transitioning to the breakout session remarks, I suppose, today, because Tsuchiya-san wasn't able to participate fully this evening. I'll also then probably give a small bit of update on future IJCC events and what's been going on in the last few weeks. We have, I suppose, we've gone back to, at the IJCC, we've gone back to in-person events as well as continuing the online events. There was a dip in COVID cases in the last few months, up until the last few weeks again, where We won't even bother talking about the numbers tonight, but things are kind of continuing semi-normally with in-person events. We've had a couple of events recently. We had, as people would probably know, we were lucky enough to have the Taoiseach, Prime Minister of Ireland, visit last week, and there was an event run by the embassy where we were fortunate enough to be participating in that as well. It was a very short schedule, so unfortunately we weren't able to have a dedicated IJCC event, even though we were pushing and planning for that. Both ourselves and Singapore were restricted in that from the Chamber's point of view. So hopefully with future visiting politicians, we'll get a better opportunity to do that. The second kind of big thing that's going on at the moment is, as everybody will be aware probably now, Ambassador Paul Kavanagh, who has been in Japan since 2019, he's finishing his term in August here now. So the IJCC held a farewell event for him last Monday night, which was very well attended, very much appreciated by the ambassador as well, and by First Secretary David Murphy, who's also finishing, and Owen Flavin as well, who's also going back to Ireland in August. So we will have a new ambassador, some new staff coming in the embassy, and as you're probably aware, the embassy as well as Enterprise Ireland and IDA Ireland are on the IJCC's board, so we have a very close working relationship with them from a business point of view, a cultural point of view as well. And you may have seen as well that during the visit, the sod was turned, or there was the Taoiseach with the ambassador and a few others holding shovels in a good picture in Yotsuya. So we will have a new home for the embassy, for Enterprise Ireland, IDA Ireland, Board BA Tourism Ireland, and the IJCC in early 2024 in Yotsuya, which will be a showcase facility and site for Ireland called Ireland House. So there are kind of big things that are going on. In terms of Osaka Expo 2025, Ireland will participate in that. So there'll be a long run in there. So as part of that, I suppose the regional committee, which runs these Tales from the Regions events, will be trying to build a presence in the area around Osaka with in-person events and more connections as well. So if any of you are based in the Kansai region, please let us know so that we can get you more involved in planning for the Expo in 2025. It seems a long time away. There'll be a run-up with various events, I'm sure. So that, I think, is most of the IJCC news. We're going to have an event, one of our events showcasing new and existing members, member spotlight on the 25th of August. That's our next online event, and we'll be also hopefully getting back to more in-person events while trying to continue with the online events, and potentially try some hybrid events as well, which we tried with the AGM in May. So the other thing I suppose I would ask is that if you have any thoughts and ideas on how we can improve the membership experience for any of you, particularly those based in the regions, because we don't want to undo the connections we've made in the last 2 years due to the pandemic, now that we're getting back to normal. So I think that's my updates. If there's any points I've missed, Eamon Murphy's here as well. He'll jump in, or if there's any quick questions, happy to take them before we transition into breakout rooms. Okay. Ashley, are we ready to go?
Almost. I just want to say, if anyone does need to leave at this point, thanks again for all of your attendance tonight, and a big thanks to our speakers, David and Cyrielle. And I'll go ahead and set up the breakout rooms. So,
okay, see some of you in a minute or two.
Thanks, Paul.
Where are you? Oh, you're recording the breakout room.
I think that's
Can
just
we
on.
not record the breakout room?
I'll pause the record.
We just got cut off mid.
Sorry, did you all get kicked out of?
We all got kicked off mid-sentence.
Yes,
I just finished my sentence there.
Well, if anyone is looking for contacts or introductions later on, do get in touch and we can share emails. But for tonight, that's all we have time for. So thank you all for sticking with us till the end, and sticking around for the breakout rooms too. And we'll wrap it up there if there's no final comments. And I'd like to say thank you again to all of our attendees tonight, and our speakers from Fukuoka and France, David and Cyrielle. Thank you all for making the time to be here, and we will see you all next time.
Okay, thanks, Aisling, and thank you for.
Thank you very much.
Great job, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks to the
Everybody.
speakers.
Bye.
Thanks a million, Aisling. Good night.
Thank you very much, Aisling.
Thank you.
Sorry.